Hello, and welcome to Behind the Bookcase, the show where we invite you to delve into the work of some of the greatest authors from around the world, with me, Brandon.
And me, Scarlett.
Last week, we explored the fantastic works of J.K. Rowling, most famous for her world-renowned Harry Potter book series.
My favourite character is definitely Hermione. Wingardium Leviosa!
Okay, Scarlett, but can you guess who we're talking about this week?
Can I have a clue?
Sure can. He wrote The Hogfather.
Jacqueline Wilson?
He, not quite, Scarlett. Good try, though. He received a knighthood in 2009 to honour his services to literature.
No, I'm still stumped. Give me another clue.
Okay, final clue. He was born in 1948 in Buckinghamshire.
Prince Charles?
We're going nowhere with this, are we? No, it is in fact Sir Terry Pratchett.
Oh, I love Sir Terry Pratchett. I really enjoyed reading his book, The Carpet People.
Oh yeah, The Carpet People was the first book he published. Did you know that before he became a writer, he worked at a local newspaper writing stories for the children's section? Some of the characters in those stories even went to star in The Carpet People.
Didn't he even create his own world for all of his stories to take place in? Wasn't it on top of a tortoise or something?
Indeed he did. It was called the Discworld, and it's actually a turtle. The Colour of Magic was the first book to be set in his own personal universe. There are a total of 41 different books that take place in Discworld.
Wow, that must take a really long time to read. Have any of them been made into films?
Surprisingly, few of the 41 have. I did manage to find a film adaptation of The Colour of Magic.
Awesome, let's watch it. Have you got any popcorn?
Shh, it's starting.
It's alright, I found some.
Mr. Rincewind, there are, as you know, 8 levels of wizardry to which the aspiring young, to which the student can aspire. In your not inconsiderable time here at the Unseen University, you have failed to reach even level 1.
Ah, yes, but
what the Arch-Chancellor is trying to say is that after decades of teaching you, patience seems not so much a virtue as a life sentence.
Oh, yes, but
there is simply no room for your kind of person in a modern university.
I feel
so you leave the Arch-Chancellor no other course of action but to expel you.
But it's only been 40 years.
The hat. Goodbye, Mr. Rincewind.
A great adaptation of Terry Pratchett's The Colour of Magic there, but that's all we have time to watch, I'm afraid.
Oh, come on, just a bit more.
Nope, we have a show to do, and we're professionals, remember? One of us is at least.
For this week's competition, we're going to ask you at home to try and create your own illustration of a Terry Pratchett character from any one of his novels. Brandon, how about you give everyone an idea of what we're looking for?
Sure, let's go over to the drawing table. And I'll show you how to draw a cartoon of the wizard Rincewind from The Colour of Magic we just saw.
To begin with, you need to start with basic construction lines. You'll need an oval for the head, and rectangles can form the rest of the body, including the hands and the feet. You can also draw the lines down and across the face to help you draw the facial features later.
So this will give you something that looks a little bit like this.
Looking great, Brandon, but what's the next step?
We need to add the clothes.
Remember, Brandon, Rincewind is a wizard, so he needs to wear traditional wizard robes and a crooked hat.
So keep going until you have this.
Brandon?
Yes?
Where's the face?
Way ahead of you.
You can use the lines on the face we drew earlier to help you get the eyes, mouth and nose in the right place.
Finally, we're going to be using a fine liner to make it all stand out just a little bit more. I'm going to be using a 0.3 for this one.
While Brandon takes his fine time with the fine liner, did you know that Rincewind spends a lot of his time complaining about the relative stupidity of everyone else around him? Just like you, Brandon.
Oh, really? So, with a little bit of colour as well, here is the finished result. For full list of instructions, see our website www.behindthebookcase.co.uk.
You can also find a template on the Rinspin there to download if you prefer to colour it in instead, and check out last week's drawing of Hermione.
You can also find this time-lapse drawing of Rincewind's luggage.
But now on to this week's competition. To enter, we want you to send in your own illustration of a Terry Pratchett character.
All entries will receive a Discworld bookmark in the post. Runners-up will receive a copy of the recommended book of the week, which we'll cover on later on. But if you come first, we'll be sending you the complete Discworld collection of all 41 books.
To enter the competition, send us your picture with your name and address written on it to Behind the Bookcase, Churchill Road, Lincoln, PO Box 121.
Last week, we asked you to send in illustrations of your favourite J.K. Rowling characters. It was really hard to judge because you all sent in hundreds of fantastic Wrong bookcase, Scarlett.
Oh, yeah. Well done to everyone who entered, and we hope you enjoy your exclusive J.K. Rowling bookmark.
2 entries each week are given the special prize of the recommended book of the week, which last week was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And the winners are James Bradshaw, 14 from Coventry, and Katie Sutcliffe, 11 from Glasgow.
Really great pictures there, but there can only be one winner of our top prize, and this week that is Emily Day from Doncaster. Well done, Emily. We loved your drawing of Voldemort. You won the first prize of the complete collection of Harry Potter books written by J.K. Rowling.
Fantastic drawing, Emily.
I bet Emily feels a bit famous now that she's won the top prize.
Fame can be a difficult thing to cope with. Some people let it go straight to their heads.
How did Terry Pratchett cope with becoming so well known?
Well, we can actually hear about how he felt about his fame from the man himself.
Of all the awards you've won, of which are you most proud?
The Carnegie Medal, because I think that's about the best, biggest children's award that you can get on this planet.
Did you ever expect that this would happen?
No one ever expects this sort of thing. Because when you start, you have no idea. You just hope that someone's going to buy it, and then a book gets to #1, and you think this is a big deal. But the only people that know it's got to #1 are the people that actually read the bestseller list in the newspapers, and your publishers, and absolutely no one else.
Now that you're so incredibly successful, I mean, it must be wonderful, but also it must be quite an impediment to writing, isn't
Well,
it?
it means I can't go into Anne Summers and buy the Christmas hamper anymore.
Well, that's
people will
bad
talk.
luck. Yeah.
No, I don't know. The thing is, for writers, it's just not the same. I mean, sooner or later, it's you and the cursor flashing on the keyboard, and you've got to do that book. And with any luck, you'll be able to make it better than the last one, although you absolutely know that sooner or later, by the sheer laws of mathematics, it's going to be impossible. And that's quite terrifying, and it's possibly even more terrifying when you're on your, I don't know, 50th book than when you're on the first one, because the first one, who cares?
That was an interview with Sir Terry Pratchett. It was in March of this year that Terry Pratchett sadly passed away after a long struggle with Alzheimer's. He leaves behind a rich collection of work that will entertain readers for many years to come.
I'm sure he'll be remembered for his crazy characters and endless imagination. I mean, who else would come up with the idea of the world sitting on the back of a tortoise?
Scarlett, how many times have I told you it's a turtle, not a tortoise?
Aren't they basically the same thing? I mean, they look the same.
No, turtles swim, tortoises can't.
Sounds like tortoises are just lazy turtles then. That's probably why they're so slow, they're out of shape. They need to get out of their shell and start getting fit.
Here on Behind the Bookcase, we delve into the works of great authors such as Terry Pratchett. But what we don't do is discuss tortoise exercise regimes, Scarlett.
Well, maybe that's where we're going wrong.
Shall we just move on to the actual book discussion?
Sure. What's this week's recommended book of the week?
This week, we've chosen The Wee Free Men, because it's a great introduction to the rest of his books.
Is that the one about the trainee witch called Tiffany Aching and her adventures as she grows up? I loved that one.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of Tiffany Aching, there are another 4 books starring her in the Discworld series. They are A Hatful of Sky, Wintersmith, I Shall Wed Midnight, and The Shepherd's Crown.
All of which you can find easily from any local bookstore.
For more information on the Tiffany Aching series, you can visit our website, www.behindthebookcase.co.uk. Once on the site, click on our authors section to find out all the authors we've discussed on the show so far.
Here you can find a full list of all the books they've written, video clips, our own recommended picks, and some really interesting facts.
But if you want even more interesting facts about a different author, then tune in next week as we'll be delving into the shady undercover world of espionage.
Ooh, that's like Spies, isn't it?
Yeah, the author actually wrote a novel about a teenage spy which sold over 19 million copies worldwide. Try and work out who you think that might be before next week's episode.
Or we could just turn this picture around and see who it is. Brandon!
Phew. Well, to find out who it is next week, be sure that you watch Behind the Bookcase.
Or you could just start being a super spy right now. The name's Mikhail. Scarlet Mikhail.
Another classic impression. See you next week.
Bye!